Hi, welcome back to this new episode of the IR Strikes Back. So today we talk about
The Rescuer, a movie which came out in the 90s.
So this movie came out during the Cold War. The Cold War is a war between the United States of America and the Soviet Union. It was not any ordinary war. It implicated the world, but it was mostly a war by proxy.
What is a war by proxy?
It's a war which is not conducted directly by the US or the Soviet Union. It's a war to interpose actors, such as the war in Vietnam or the one in Korea and many others. So it's a war that is conducted through their respective allies that clash amongst themselves, and the US and the Soviet Union supports each actors to reinforce their military power or intelligence power.
So yeah, this movie came out during that time. But what else?
At that time, the US and the Soviet Union were trying to find a solution to the Cold War. So it was some kind of break in which many agreements were negotiated regarding nuclear weapons. And at that time, the US was also trying to actively make friends and diminish the antagonization against allies of the Soviet Union or opposing countries that had a difficult relation with the US, such as France.
And with that, we can start talking about this movie.
Yes. So buckle up. We're going to destroy this movie from your childhood.
First of all, the United Nations are present in this movie.
Yes, because at the very beginning of the movie, the Rescue Society is represented as the UN, and this idea is reinforced by the fact that they go to the UN, and their headquarters is somewhere United Nations building at New York. In this movie, they represent the United Nations because the Rescue Society is somewhere in the building of the UN.
In New York. And this building is represented with a lot of blue, which is kind of color of the United Nations. The mouse are the peacekeeping force of the United Nations.
Because in English, the name of the casque bleu in French is
Peacekeeping force.
So the Rescue Society kind of echoes to this force of the United Nations.
The goal of the peacekeeping force in the UN is to protect the civilian, to help those whose life is in danger during the life.
They are to be mobilized only if the Security Council is in agreement to his mobilization or the General Assembly of the UN is in agreement and favor of mobilizing this force made up of different army from the members of the UN.
So yeah, they are soldiers, but they are not soldiers to kill or to attack another territory, but only to protect the civilian whose life is in danger. So the mouse are like this force because their goal is only to save the children. Their goal is not to, kidnap the bad parent, only to save the life of Penny in this case.
And it's also very interesting because we see the mouse going inside the headquarters of the Rescue Society. The movie highlights the name tag under these different mouse because if you ever been to the UN, you can see that there's tags under each representative of each country to properly identify them during General Assembly. And here it's the same thing that is happening, and here is the same. we can see different countries, and we can clearly identify that we're during the Cold War. Because since the US was trying to get closer to France, it's funny because we see a mouse, which is the representative from Middle Eastern country, and it spoke in French, not in Arabic or other language from that region. So it's kind of an acknowledgement from the US to France that it's their colonies. And this is very, very clearly a message for France that they agree with their claims there. So it's clearly a message towards France to reinforce their alliance by recognizing that it's French colony, because during that time, there's a lot of French colonies that were trying to obtain their independence. And France was kind of losing their grasp there because colonies wanted to be independent. For example, it's very clear that there's a preference to Europe countries and Western countries, because we can see that there's Latvia and there's France, I believe. But when it comes to countries in Africa, it's just written Africa, which is a clear sign that Africa is not important. The countries there weren't important at that moment. And the point was to showcase that the US could be this united element that could bound together all the countries from both sides. But they didn't include the African countries in there. To reinforce that idea, we even see the name tag of China and Ireland. But where are the African countries? It's funny that they choose not to underline the different African countries, because in the Cold War, there were a lot of disputed countries in there that were switching sides between communist and capitalist bloc. So it's kind of ironic, especially since even the Queen made a move to make sure to keep one of these African countries in the capitalist bloc. So I'm just saying that it's a bold choice. And today it wouldn't pass.
And that's why we are destroying your childhood. Another way to destroy your childhood memory of this movie is by talking about the representation of women. In this movie, women are represented as superficial. But at the same time, the chairman will tell Bianca that it isn't like the old day, but still he accepts to give her the job.
So in some aspect, we're saying, yes, it's great that you're stepping up, and we should accept that women are taking more place in society. And it's a reference to the second wave of feminism that is happening at that time.
But still, they give the job to Bianca, and they represent her like she cares about her appearance, her perfume.
And she cares about her clothes and the way that she's dressed. So in some ways, they recognize that things have changed and that women are stepping up more in the politic area, which is different from the First and Second World War, where they didn't have a say in the crucial decisions that were taking place at that time. To ally with Wu, to go in war. They were in the shadows, but now, starting that point, they're taking more of their place in society and politics.
But still, they represent the women. Like, Bianca is afraid of, I don't know, the bad cat, and Bernard needs to rescue her.
Yeah, and it's funny because they represent Bernard as very not brave at the beginning, and then at the end, because Bianca is afraid, he steps up because he wants to please her. So it's kind of reducing the role of women at that time. They are a form of encouragement, but nothing more in the political arena. So they're trying to please everyone in this movie, everyone that matters for them. So they want to please the feminists. They want to please both blocs. They want to represent the US as some kind of united driving force. But we're forced to acknowledge that there's some kind of very disturbing representation in women and in non-existing countries.
Another thing about this movie which proves it's political, it's the representation of the gold standard.
So the gold standard is the idea that each money bill has to equal to gold in the national reserve of each country. But the thing is that this conversion was kind of abandoned and diminished because it's an idea that was imposed by the UK, British Empire. But in between the two wars, they lost their power. So that kind of conversion was later brought back by the US and was supposed to be guaranteed. But in the 70s, it was abandoned because the US weren't able to maintain it anymore. It was abandoned in the 1971. But up to this day, gold is still considered as a safe haven currency or a safe currency because, as you know, nowadays, global economy is kind of in a very dire situation for many reasons that we will not explain. But if you're interested to know more about what is going on with global economy and how it's represented in movies, you can just look up our episode on G20. So just up there. Thank you, guys. So gold is still important. And nowadays, if you look at the value of gold, it's getting higher because the global economy is not stable these days. So what the adoptive parents of Penny wants is for her to get a ruby. The ruby serves the same purpose as gold. It's a safe value that will not change and get higher. So you can always profit from jewels and gold because you cannot print more of them. So it cannot be devalued. It can just go higher.
But still, the other human in this movie doesn't want that much this diamond. So that kind of represent that US still acknowledge that there's a gold standard, but they are going through it.
And it's not what is important anymore. What is important is bills.
And the children, right?
Yes, because the US not only represent themselves as a driving, uniting force for their preferred actors, of course, but also the guardian of human rights, the children's human rights, to be more precise, because Penny, as a children and as any children currently in any countries, has rights, because in most of the countries, signed and ratified the Convention on Children's Rights. It's the convention that was ratified the most by countries. So this is why Penny's rights are to be protected through the Rescue Society, which is based in New York, which rescue mission is conducted by an American. And Bianca, she's from Latvia, from what I recall. She's from a Soviet country.
So they represent both, but can be united.
And work together towards a common goal, which in this case is children's rights. So what a wonderful way to promote the future potential friendship alliance between the two blocs at that time.
And what a wonderful way to destroy your childhood.
So if you like this episode and we didn't traumatize you too much, like and subscribe, and don't hesitate to tell us what you thought about our analysis.
Ciao!